Hi guys, Mac here, and I wanted to come talk to you about something that's a bit near and dear to my heart. Back in my personal Discord, this became a bit of a joke that you weren't inducted until I'd somehow convinced you to take on this piece of software. Voicemeeter. Voicemeeter is an audio mixer application, which effectively means it's a piece of software that allows you to take audio into it in different places and send it out in different places. Not necessarily in the same order they came in. Now, it has its quirks, but I do love it. And it's an invaluable tool for us creating YouTube content and for when we all streamed on Twitch. So, this particular version we're looking at here is Voicemeeter Potato. Currently, I'm using Voicemeeter to bring in two microphone inputs. One being a studio condenser microphone, and the other being my headset microphone from these Void Pros, which, when I do this, you can see brings an input level in. I'm then bringing in three virtual inputs. One that I'm naming here PC Audio, one that I'm here naming Discord, and one that I'm here naming Music. I'm then mastering these in 5 different ways. I have a master going out to my own headphones. I have a master going out to my amplifier. And then I have 3 virtual masters, which I'm here named Discord, Stream, and Nvidia. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll understand what on earth's going on. Because if there's one thing I've learnt in teaching Voicemeeter now to nearly 15 different people, it's that it's very complicated to begin with, but very soon it should make a lot more sense. So I'm going to wipe all this progress and start afresh, and we're going to rebuild this and see how you could integrate it into your workflow. I'm going to make the bold assumption that you do have the ability to A, click a download button, B, install said download once you've extracted it, and then actually reboot when it tells you to. I can't stress this enough. When Voicemeeter tells you to reboot after you've installed, it's not a suggestion. Just do it. Yeah, that's from experience. Now, an interesting thing about Voicemeeter is that actually when you choose the installation of Potato, which is their flagship model of the 3 versions they produce, you'll actually find that Voicemeeter, Banana, and Potato and the original Voicemeeter are all installed alongside each other. So it's worth making sure that you do run Voicemeeter Potato and not one of the others. But with a bit of luck, when you start up Voicemeeter Potato, it should look something a bit like this. So, off the get-go, over here we see a big red flashing light. It's going to be a great step here to set your main audio out. So this is a physical audio output. So this might be your desktop speakers, or in my case, it's going to be these headphones. And we're going to put them on A1. And we'll see here, Voicemeeter headphones, earphones, these are my Void Pros. And that somewhat satisfies the matter. So let's draw our attention over to here, this section here, which is our hardware inputs. So these are, generally speaking, always hardware, real-life hardware inputs. So microphones, line-ins for perhaps a guitar, but something that can physically be plugged in. So I'm going to come up here and add my studio microphone. Your mileage will vary depending on what it is you run as a microphone. But I'm here running my Steinberg CL1, which is a USB interface that connects my condenser microphone to the PC. The first thing I'm going to do is unclick this, because I was hearing myself just then. For the sake of completion, I'll also add my Void Pro, which, again, when I unmute it, comes through here. Let's then draw our attention to these virtual inputs. So how do we get audio into here, and why do we want it in here? If you now go to Sounds, they bring up this little dialogue, and let's go to Playback. We'll see here I have a whole host of devices, but the main ones of importance here are my Void Pro headphones, the line out to my Steinberg, which I do on occasion use as a monitor, but don't worry too much about that. A whole host of outputs that go to via HDMIs to my monitors, an optical out to my amplifier, and these 3 virtual speakers. Now, the naming convention of these, I'm not quite sure why. But what we have here are these 3 inputs visualized here as 3 speakers. And they go Voicemeeter input being this one, Voicemeeter aux input being this one, and Voicemeeter VAIO3 input being the third one. You can see them here so labeled. You'll see here that I have my Voicemeeter input set as the default communication and the default speaker. You'll want to do the same. What this will mean is any app that doesn't know any better will send its audio through to this speaker, thinking it's going to get to a real speaker. The reality is it comes in here. That's why we're calling it an input. The terminology can get a little bit turbulent here, but you'll get it eventually. It's a learning curve. So we're taking pretty much all our audio in here at this point. If I were to bring up, say, a YouTube video, what we'll now see here is that this audio is being captured right here. Now, you can't hear it at all right now. And that's because we aren't mastering it anywhere. It's not going to anywhere you can hear it. Let's say goodbye to Toast. So, why would we want to split it up? Well, sometimes you might want to hear audio, or you might want the viewer to hear audio, that necessarily the two aren't viewing. You'll remember that I had this labeled PC audio. Also, it's a great housekeeping idea as you go to label Voicemeeter. So, Studio, Mic, Void Pro, Mic. It's quite easy. Just right-click above the input to make a change. And also you can right-click towards the bottom of a fader to rename it there. I have this one labeled Discord. And I have the third one labeled Music. I'm going to head into Discord now and quickly head into the voice and video settings. We might as well kill two birds with one stone at this point, and specifically name our input and output devices. So, I'll be using Voicemeeter Output as my microphone in Discord. This will become clearer later. What you should realize now, however, is that for my output device, aka the sound coming from the people I'm talking to on Discord, is going out to Voicemeeter aux input. Remember the terminology being here, an input for Voicemeeter is going into Voicemeeter. It's coming out of this application, going into Voicemeeter. The effect of this is my Voicemeeter communications will be coming in on this second channel. Okay? And a similar procedure is done with your music application. In this case, I'll bring up Spotify. So now we're in Spotify. I am playing some music. And we'll see that it is heading to the third channel. Now, this won't do this by default. I've specifically told it to do this. Now, some applications are clever enough to have an option in their dialog box to set this, which output device you want. Spotify, as far as I can tell, isn't one of them, but it's not a massive problem. All we're going to do is head over to our sound settings and then head to App Volume Device Preferences. I'm sure there's a quick way to get here, but it's the way I always do it. You'll notice here that Spotify is listed, and as I say, I've already changed this. But what you'll see is it's set to default, and set on default, you'll see that the audio is now coming through on the PC audio channel because it's going to the default speakers, which, as we set previously, is Voicemeeter VAIO. But by simply clicking here and choosing VAIO 3 instead, I'll be sending it to this third channel. The upshot is we're splitting up our audio. For a game, for example, we'll be taking the game audio here. We'll be taking the Discord communications that I'm listening to here, and any music I may choose to have in the background here. The benefit of that is then we can now choose where to send it, who gets to hear it, and who doesn't get to hear. Now we've got our physical inputs and our virtual input set. Let's talk about this mastering section, or I suppose you can also think of it as your output section. So you'll have to find what the best workflow for you is with these masters. But what I think the best way to do it is to have a master dedicated for Discord, a master dedicated to your stream, and a master dedicated to Nvidia. Let's tackle the simplest one of those first, the Discord fader. And again, housekeeping, we're going to label it as such. If it helps you, you can also call it to Discord. Okay, because whatever comes into here, whatever registers here, will go to Discord. That's why, if you'll remember, inside our settings, I'm set to Voicemeeter Output. And again, the naming convention's a bit of an odd choice because they're so similar. This particular master is called Voicemeeter Output. This particular master is called Voicemeeter aux Output. And this particular master is Voicemeeter VAIO 3 Output. So, very similarly named to the inputs, but with output. And again, important to remember your terminology. Inputs coming into Voicemeeter, outputs going out of Voicemeeter. So although when we take a look here at Discord, we're choosing a output for an input device, it's the output from Voicemeeter, which will be a good input for Discord. Okay, so the second fader we're going to set up here is your stream fader. So for ease, I'll call this to stream. This is all the audio you're sending to stream. If I quickly open up OBS, and you can do this with whatever stream software you're running, you'll see I have a single audio input capture set here, which is set to Voicemeeter aux output, aka this master. The third and final master here, I'll be naming to Nvidia. Assuming you intend to use Nvidia ShadowPlay, and you'll see here that I am currently recording, inside your audio settings, you'll see you're able to add a microphone here, which I'm setting as Voicemeeter VAIO3 output, aka this particular master. The upshot is, whatever audio ends up on this master will go to Discord, whatever audio ends up on this master will go to stream, and whatever audio that ends up on this master will go to Nvidia. And just to reiterate, anything that comes in on this master will go to my ears. So, how do we send that audio there? Well, the one glaring thing that I've not been talking about are all these letters. Conveniently, you'll notice that A1 to A5 and B1 to B3 all seem to correspond to these letters here. Probably means something, right? By clicking one of these numbers, we send it to that particular master. In this case, by turning on A1, I've started sending my microphone audio into this master, which is my headphones. In fact, I'll label it as such. So now we can see that the input from my microphone is heading out to my headphones and driving me ever so slightly insane. In fact, to that end, I'll turn it off now. So going across each of these inputs, you've got to ask a question, who wants to hear them? Now, I've just answered that one. I don't want to hear myself because that just drives me nuts and is only really useful for monitoring yourself and checking for any problems. The rest of the A masters we're not currently using, so we can also ignore those. B1 then, that's currently selected by default, and where's that heading? Well, that's heading to Discord. Seems like a good idea. We probably want the people in Discord to be able to hear me. Perfect. B2 then is going to stream. Well, equally, we probably want the people who we're streaming to be able to hear me. So we'll turn that on. And finally, B3, well, that's going to Nvidia. Now, this will depend on the type of recording you're making, but sure, right now I will turn on B3 so that my voice heads to the Nvidia recording and is recorded for posterity. And this then becomes just a matter of going between them. Right now, I don't want to be using my headset microphone, so I won't be turning that on. These are all not in use. And as such, for some housekeeping, I will name them non-applicable. Okay, so now let's look at PC audio. Again, this is sort of like the default position for any application, and in a gaming situation, this is mainly just your game. Now, it's probably a good idea that you yourself can hear your game, so having A1 and sending it to headphones, well, let's think. Let's look at these other ones. To Discord, well, that's going to annoy some people if they're listening to my voice, but also hearing my game in Discord. Not something that we're going to want. B3, of course, relating to the stream, well, yeah, if you're streaming a game, they probably want to hear the game. And again, to Nvidia. Well, there's the interesting thing and why we choose to use Nvidia ShadowPlay. Nvidia will actually take a pre-fader copy of this default PC audio. So what I mean by that is no matter how low, what level I have this set to, it'll have already taken a copy of it before it touches this fader, hence pre-fader. This is making the assumption, of course, that you're recording on two separate audio tracks. I'll take a screenshot of this once I'm not recording so you can see what I'm talking about. The upshot of this is that Nvidia ShadowPlay at the same time is A, taking a copy of your default speaker, in this case the game audio, and also is ready to take in another recording on a separate track, which is where I'm going to send my voice and the people I'm talking to on Discord. So in this case, actually sending out the game audio to B3 doesn't make sense at all. I don't want two copies of the game audio. I don't want the pre-fader copy and a post-fader copy. So we won't be clicking that. For Discord, it's much similar. I want to be hearing my friends, my friends don't want to be hearing my friends, they don't want to be hearing themselves, so we'll turn off B2. Assuming you want your stream to be able to hear your friends, B2 is a good idea. Now, this starts to show you the power of Voicemeeter. Assume you don't want your friends on Discord to appear on your stream, but you do want to be able to hear them. You want to be able to communicate with them, make plans, that sort of thing. B2 can be turned off here. You still hear them, but your stream doesn't. And finally, B3, the fader that's going to Nvidia ShadowPlay to record that secondary track of just my microphone and a copy of Discord. So, this being Discord, I will be sending a copy of it to that fader. And finally, music. Well, this will be different depending on each case. It's best to think about this in different scenarios. So let's say you are a streamer and you have some royalty-free music that you're playing. So let's go down this. Let's say you do want to listen to it yourself. We'll keep A1 on then. You don't want to be piping it through to Discord? Fine. You do want to be sending it to the stream? Well, you wouldn't be listening to DRM-free music if you weren't intending to send it to the stream. So I'll send it there. And again, the recording of Nvidia ShadowPlay, we don't want a copy of the music on there, so we'll turn that off. Now, that's great. But also, DRM-free music tends to be not very good. So let's imagine, actually, we turn A1 off here. Your stream is still hearing some background music. It's keeping them happy, but you're not being disturbed about it. It's not impacting your elite COD gameplay. Now, let's turn this situation on its head. Let's say you're one of those gamers that really does like listening to music, and in particular, likes listening to not royalty-free music. In that case, they might actually choose to use this in exactly the opposite way, turning on A1 to send that music to their ears, but turning off B2, so it actually doesn't make it to the stream. This satisfies copyright, it's not making it to the stream, it's not being broadcast, but you're also able to hear it. And assuming you're a kind of gamer who likes listening to music, it's helping your elite COD gameplay. We'll set it to how I have it, which is I don't listen to the music, but I do send it to the stream. Now, I don't know how long this has been going on for. We're getting frighteningly close to the end of the basic setup of Voicemeeter here. We've got our microphones coming in. We've got our virtual inputs coming in. We've got our physical outputs set. We've got our virtual masters all set up with the correct audio going to them. And we've also talked about how you might use this in some of their software. Now, on the fly, you might choose to change some of this. Let's say you want to go walkabouts and use your wireless headset microphone. We can choose to go across to my Void Pro and turn off my studio microphone to avoid any crossover as I walk away. Now, lots of these sort of things can be automated, and I intend to do another 2 videos on Voicemeeter, one focusing on that automation and how you can integrate it with a MIDI board, such as the Akai APC Mini, and also a third one on a piece of software called Pedalboard, which is what we use to clean up the audio that you're hearing now on the fly within Voicemeeter. Regardless, however, I hope this video allows you to set a firm foundation on how you might be able to use Voicemeeter in your workflow. I certainly use it every day. I haven't really talked about pricing. I'm not affiliated with Voicemeeter in any way, but they do use a donationware model. Technically, this can be used for free. The only thing is, after 30 days, every 6 hours, it will remind you to think about donating. It's a bit annoying. I know Toasty has been dealing with it for going on 3 months now. I personally think it's well worth a $10 donation. That's the minimum, in fact. You can go a lot higher. But either way, it's invaluable to me regardless of the cost. Equally, something similar that would allow me to perform this function, mainly being the Go XLR, is a lot more than that. So all that's left for me to say is thank you for tuning in. Consider liking this video if it helps. Leave a comment if you have any questions. And if you'd like to see more cult content, feel free to subscribe. I'm Mac. This has been Voicemeeter.